Thank you, Louise, and welcome everyone to OTF Connects. Thank you so much for giving of your time to join us tonight. It's great to have so many of you here. I'm glad you were able to make it home safe. We've got quite a bit of snow here in Ancaster, so I hope you had a safe drive home tonight. It's my pleasure to welcome Jen Upgar, who will be facilitating tonight's webinar on making connections, curriculum connections with Minecraft. Jen was part of the Minds on Media team at the OTF Technology Conference this past summer, and she brings much experience and resources to share with us tonight. I'm certainly looking forward to tonight's webinar, and welcome, Jen.
Thank you so much, Syria. Do I just take it from here? So welcome, everybody. Let's just test the tools one more time. If you can hear me, can you give me a check mark, please? Awesome. Okay. If you can't figure out the check marks just yet, that's okay, since most of you can hear me. If you do have an issue, just type it in the chat. Really excited. This is my first format of doing this in webinar, so I'd like to thank Louise for giving me some training Sunday morning, and hopefully it'll go well. I also am modeling doing something for the first time with technology, which is what many of you will be doing if you try making some curriculum connections with Minecraft in your classroom. Okay, so I'm going to try navigating through. Please feel free to interrupt in any way if you need to. So this is just my speakers at work. Can't hear anything. Okay. If someone can help Jeannie out, that would be great. So welcome, Victoria. Yeah, this is just my title screen. So we'll just go from here. This is a little picture of me in Minecraft form through Minecraft Edu, which we'll talk about. So who am I? Just a little bit more in-depth introduction about myself. I did get connected for the first time to OTF this summer through Minds on Media session. I didn't actually present on Minecraft at that time. Another great Minecraft educator from Hamilton Wentworth, Zoe Brannigan Pike, was already on deck for that. But I am excited to share with OTF here today. So currently, as you guys can read, I'm an itinerant technology coach with the Upper Grand District School Board in Guelph. Just having come out of the classroom this past June, where I was teaching a grade 4-5 gifted class, in congregated setting in our board, which I've been doing for 10 years in the junior panel. And recently I've taken my specialists in tech and also the specialist in special education. And yeah, so I guess I just wanted to give a little bit of some history of how I got involved with Minecraft. It was interesting, Syria mentioned earlier how she's not really a gamer. I'm not what you would call a hardcore gamer either, but I have had computers and games in my upbringing. So I guess I had some exposure, but I always want to build relationships with my students. So I guess it would have been 4 years ago now, I had a couple of students who were really into Minecraft, possibly before everybody was, but it seemed like an interesting tool. They were really into it, so I asked them to tell me more about it. And the one boy who mentioned it said, yeah, did you know there's this teacher in New York who teaches his entire class through Minecraft? So I said, that's super cool. So we watched the videos about Joel Levine, who is the person that created Minecraft Edu, which I'll talk about later in the webinar. And it seemed like a really cool tool. Even the students who weren't super engaged at that point thought, hey, this is something we might be interested in, and they got involved in it. And I, from that point on, was trying to figure out a way of using it in my classroom. So 3 years later, that guy was not in my class anymore and hadn't been for a number of years. But finally, we had the tech infrastructure that allowed me to do that. And I got connected at the ECHO conference in Niagara Falls last year with some great educators in the Toronto District School Board, who I will tell you about as well this evening, who helped make things a reality and where some of my student work examples have come from. So again, too, if you want to follow me on various social media, I do talk about Minecraft a lot, technology, and special education. Okay, so I did ask some people, and a lot of you were able to do the survey that I put out prior to this, and it was just to get an idea of where people were with Minecraft. We do possibly have some experts in the room, including Heather's son, so feel free if, to add anything, and please correct me if I'm inaccurate. That's one of the other things too, when you're taking on a tool where the students know more than you do. It's always important to defer to the experts. But just a little explanation of what Minecraft is. It's defined as a sandbox game, so well, you guys can read. But the thing that really ties to me is thinking infinite digital Legos. No worries about the survey. If Kelly, if you're an expert, then just add to it. But a lot of people were entry level, and that's what I wanted to get to know. I didn't want to be redundant for people who had seen me present before. But I feel like we're mostly noobs is the affectionate term, newbies, and who are well supported in the Minecraft education environment. So now we're going to get to some interactive piece. A lot of people want to know why Minecraft, and some of you even in the survey said, why do kids like it so much? So I might need some of your help at this point, Louise, with going out to the real world to do this.
No problem. So we're going to put the web tour in of the video.
Awesome.
Let me just snap up that link there for you. Okay, folks, so this slide is now going to become a web tour, which is basically just a browser within the Blackboard Collaborate interface. And as soon as I hit enter, that YouTube video is going to start. If you have any trouble seeing it in there, not to worry. The link is now also in the chat. Just click on it there, and when you're finished watching, give us the green check mark.
Enjoy. Okay, a couple of questions. It looks like somebody had a pop-up block. So web tour did not work.
Yes, okay, yep, so if the web tour ever doesn't work, folks, the link is in the chat as well. And if you click on the link in the chat, it'll open your own browser, which will pretty much always work. Sometimes the web tour does not.
Okay, is there anyone else other than John who had that issue? If you just want to. Okay, so yeah, I guess to explain what you think the appeal of the game is, and to answer some of the questions going on in the chat, it can be played with other people and individually, and we'll talk, Victoria, what that can look like in the classroom, and how students may be using it outside of the classroom in either of those two environments. Does anyone want to speak out loud? Does anyone feel brave about sharing how they see that appeal, possibly if you want some prompts, how it connects to where education is going in terms of inquiry or student-directed learning? Yes, when the internet works. True. And Claudia, and tech issues are something to talk about too. Each board and each school has their own obstacles to overcome in that area, which is tricky. Yeah, feedback being immediate. Again, in talking about it, and we'll talk about the different ways that you can play Minecraft. Feedback, I mean, in game-based learning is immediate. And what's nice about it, when I'm talking about infinite Legos, so real Legos I like to use in my classroom as well. I have 4 younger brothers, and I played with Legos a lot, and they were all in a big box in my dad's basement. So even though Legos are very expensive to bring into the classroom, I did bring them in with my students, but they get lost, they get stepped on, and you run out. So the neat aspect about Minecraft in the creative play environment is that it never runs out. You never run out of space or bricks. And I want to pronounce your name right. Is it Jeannie or Janine? Anyway, yeah, graphics are basic. It's interesting, a lot of people ask about the graphics, and because it looks more old school or 8-bit graphics. And I'm not an expert on the history of Minecraft, or the things that I'm interested in. That's not a big part of it. But the developers didn't develop it for kids in the beginning. And actually, one of the things that, looking at it, some people thought it would be easy to run on computers because graphics weren't a key component. But the infinite aspect of it and the world generation means that it actually is quite a robust program, even though it visually looks old school. And I'm not exactly sure of the history. Heather, I don't know if your son has read that. So Brendan makes a good point too. They're not trying to make it super fancy. Function over aesthetics. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we see some of the appeal to kids. Again, moving forward, they get to sort of, do whatever they want. Now, maybe you don't see how that fits into the classroom model, but that's what I'll show you. But in terms of that appeal, the entry-level access is the same. And there are two ways in which to play. If you're playing in the survival version, you have to figure out how to survive by mining for things, hence the name, and figuring out how they go together to be crafted into things you need to survive. In the classroom setting, I primarily play in creative mode, only because mining for resources takes a long time, and just building in Minecraft takes a long time. So to start with all of your resources allows you to focus on the building component. But there's some teachers who've done some neat stuff with survival as well. I will, if I'm using language you don't understand, interrupt, totally, put your hand up or throw it in the chat, but we'll get more into that as we move forward. So why Minecraft is a learning tool. There's a little article here that gives you some idea, again, too, in written language as to why kids and educators are so crazy for it. So, Louise, if you don't mind throwing that URL, if you can grab it, or I have my slides open in the background too, into the chat. If you want to have a little skim of that article, and then we'll try using some of the functions here. I know my blocks aren't really big, but what blocks teachers from getting started? So if you want to know a little bit more about why they love it, okay, so why we could or should, nobody should do anything, but could use it as a learning tool, there's reasons that people haven't yet. And so I want you to think about your own reasons as to why possibly you haven't started yet, and obviously you're growing your knowledge, so that could be not knowing enough about it. But what are some other concerns about using Minecraft as a learning tool? And then if you just want to type in the little boxes some of your ideas or thoughts, it's okay, you might overlap because the boxes aren't really big. So I'll give you some time to skin that. Louise, if you could put a timer on maybe. Okay, you don't, and again, you'll have references to the article, but if you just want to do a quick read through, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. And I'll know people are ready to write what are some blocks for teachers, obstacles from stopping them from getting started with using it as a tool. Okay. Well, I love the timer because it makes me give you time to process, because it's hard for me not to just respond to everybody in the chat as we go along. So thank you. I tried to type in some in the blocks. Obviously, I didn't do a great job formatting that either, but a lot of you wrote some things in the chat as well. So I tried to anticipate some of what the blocks would be based on my other experiences with teachers. You guys came up with some good new ones. So I'll speak to those too. I might not have slides on them, but we'll definitely speak to them. So I just want to look at what we have written here, just so I don't lose that in the chat. So cost, learning curves, internet instability, minimal access to computers, convincing people it's learning curve, so again that could be for adults or students, I guess. Virtual world navigation, and that's an issue that's come up a number of times, usually from the adults, interestingly enough. But even when I was a kid, I wasn't a good first-person gamer, so some people's brains are just visually, spatially mapped differently, I guess. Blocked ports, so again, trying to get out into the real world from a tech level. Judging games is not educational. Administration not approving. And I think I've hit on most of them. And yes, Thierry mentioned coming in as an occasional teacher, being able to tell if they're using the game appropriately or not, and then cities being destroyed, which we'll talk to as well. Multiple devices. Yeah, so trying to use it on an iPad, we'll talk about that too. Stop the computers in a lab from working. Okay, so again, tech not working. Yes, well, and Heather, you make a good point, Heather 1. Teachers afraid of trying things in the classroom where the students have more familiarity than the teacher. And that is a big shift in the culture of education for some people. I personally love it, and that's thankfully, whether it's confidence or just my mindset from the beginning, has enjoyed that and finds it actually builds relationships with students. But for some, that is a big shift in the way that they've been teaching. So we'll talk to that as well. Cost, free version, yep, I can talk about that as well coming up. Yes, okay. Spatial reasoning, best indicator of mathematics success. Yep, and that we will talk about, not that specifically, but math in general, and you guys will get a chance to develop that. And yes, other one, I agree. Student privacy concerns, and we will talk about that as we move forward. So let's. Yes, okay, French. Yeah, we can talk about how you can effectively use it in French, and partners and grouping settings and what that can look like, and the cost and the tech specs for doing so. One of the things that did come up was games as learning, which is an obstacle sometimes for administration, sometimes for parents, sometimes for kids actually. I have a student who really loved playing, but she couldn't see the connection to education, whether it was because that's what adults had always told her, whether that was her own belief. But games as learning, so this is from a great website called the Institute of Play. I think I've got the URL somewhere. Perfect, you rock, Louise. And I've referenced it a number of times. These are where these quotes have come from. But basically it talks about games and play as learning. And again, if you're aware of the new full-day kindergarten curriculum and the natural curiosity documents, it'll talk about some of these things as well. I have also a link up here to the 21st Century Learning Competencies from the EduGain Ministry site, and talking about, perfect, there's a link to that as well, and these mesh pretty well. So game-based learning emphasizes engagement, learning by doing, collaboration, and we'll talk about that, both in a one-player environment and a multiplayer environment, reflection. So again, when you're building things, you need to think about, did it work, did it not work, iteration, trying things in different ways, getting feedback. So again, if you do something and then it doesn't work, so for example, that's one of the second house I ever built on the professional play server, which you'll hear about. I thought ice looked really cool, and it was sort of a Christmassy themed house, and my daughter was watching. She's 7, she's not navigating the PC environment just yet, but and then ice melts in Minecraft, which makes sense. But then I flooded my perfectly tiled carpet that I had put together with alternating red and green. So again, getting that feedback, and then I discovered sponges. So again, these are things that happen, and you can research this. But as it said in the if you're able to watch the video, there are no rules in Minecraft, and literally there are no instructions either. So there's been some articles, and I didn't remember to click it in here, but there's an article written about how students are accessing books, like particularly the Scholastic Canada books that are in the book orders right now. I had linked earlier in the chat. Kids who possibly aren't reading at grade level are so motivated to learn about the game that they are buying books and reading books that are outside of their grade level as best they can, because they're so motivated to read what they're doing because they love that Minecraft environment so much. So again, taking on a variety of roles to actively identify and seek out the tools and multidisciplinary information they need to generate solutions. So again, I want to do this. How do I do that? Oh, Deborah said they were sold out at our book fair. Yeah, they are. They're going like hotcakes. And structures learning activities around real world or fictional challenges is also called challenge-based learning. So in some of the curriculum connections I'm going to talk to you about are about building some challenges, and some I'll show you some examples I've done with my class. So I guess games as learning, yes, games are learning, and they fit well with where we're going with 21st century learning. So how do I set it up? So this is looking at mobile options. So mobile, by meaning mobile, I mean mobile devices, tablets, phones, iPads. So here I have, this is the Android app, and under here is the iPad app, which iPads and iPods are generally more popular with students with bring your own devices. I know on our board we have, I think, 4,200 iPads, even though we're a Google Apps school and we're doing some Google tablets as well. So for cost, we talked about this too, you need to have an app on each device. If you are a board that has Apple products or iPads and you have a bulk buying option, some boards do, my board does not, then you might be able to get a reduced rate, but you're talking $7 per device, not per kid, but per device in the setting of iPads. On your Android tablets, we have somewhere that you can have more than one user on it, and Android will charge you per user unless you have it on the device and it's shared. I don't know how many people are looking at iPads. Actually, that's who, if they imagine this in their classroom, thinks it would be happening on a mobile device. So a tablet. Can you do a check mark for yes and an X for no? That will probably not be what I would be using if I was able to. Okay, so I know not everyone's check mark works. It looks like sort of, I mean, 50-50, a little bit more skewed now to not tablet devices. One interesting thing too is it doesn't exist for Windows phones and tablets, which aren't in a ton of schools yet from what I know. But if you follow anything Minecraft, you might know that Microsoft bought Minecraft. They did own the Xbox property. They will not take it away from Apple or Android. They promised that. But they may try and leverage it as an educational tool. They're very interested in having me talk about it because they want to leverage that and get into the education market. So to play together, so your students may have done this anyway if you have any bring your own devices. Oh, it's not possible on a Chromebook, and I'll tell you why when I get to the next page. Okay. So thank you. Yeah, I'm following the chat at the same time, but I will get to that piece. So if you were looking at this option and you wanted students to be able to play on their own, then obviously they have it on their device, they build something, and we can talk about what that would look like in relationship to curriculum. And it would be hard to share. They would have to give you their device for you to navigate through if you need to navigate through things. They could take some still screenshots, or if you have the appropriate dongle, the plug to plug it into a data projector, they could share and present. To join each other to do collaborative building, if the students are on the same Wi-Fi, so whether that's in your school setting, one person could create a world, and other people who are physically in close proximity to that person and on the same Wi-Fi could join that world for that period of time. And I believe the world gets saved on the device of the person who created the world in the first place. Meaning that if the other students go away and that person burns everything down, then the other people don't have access to it, and that it only exists on that device. I just learned at the ECHO conference, there is a teacher. His name is Jeff. I can't remember his last name now. I think I did give him credit. From Waterloo board. So in his board, yes, no, not that Jeff. He's an awesome Jeff too. Another guy. I'll find it. Anyway, he told me about Pocket Mine, and he did a really cool project. So in his board, they weren't able to access do it through the regular Wi-Fi, but he and his principal, with his principal's permission, they used their phones with an app called Pocket Mine. They used their own data, so the principal's data and the teacher's data, and I think the principal paid for the teacher's data, to host a server on what's called Pocket Mine, which is an external app. And they actually did a collaborative social justice building project with another grade 1 class in Korea. The difference was that when the server's on, the kids could access it, so they would access it from home as well. And we'll talk about potential issues with that. But what he thought was so great, he showed me some of the world. Yes, Scott McKenzie, thank you. Yeah, incredible. And I didn't know how to do it on mobile devices because I've done it primarily on PCs. It was fabulous, and he said his students would be, after breakfast, getting online on their iPods and building in the world, and they'd see the students in Korea who were after bed were on their building in the world too. So real world collaboration with primary students. So again, not something that's feasible for everyone in terms of their comfort level or access to technology, but does show potential with this. And I will talk a bit more about Pocket Mine and servers. Personally, I see a lot of benefit in collaborative environments, and those are most of my examples with my students. I'm going to talk about that piece of it. So, computer options. To answer the question from SAB number 2, if kids already have it on their own device, does that cut down the cost? Yes, because they wouldn't need to pay for it again. They would use, if it's a device, it's a different, anyone on that device could create a world. If he or she lent it to a friend, they could create a world and name it that. I let students do that on my iPad and our class iPad, and they just go back if they're doing independent builds and go back and build in their world. So we'll talk about, no, it is not possible on a Chromebook, and our school is doing a lot of Chromebooks because they're cheaper and they do a lot of what you want computers to do. So JCM, only Chromebooks for us. So again, that becomes tricky. We're actually talking in our board about leveraging old technology, even if it's old special education equipment that has been replenished and is sitting in a portable waiting to be recycled, and potentially having that be refreshed. It would have to be maintained from some outside of our board, and there's some politicking about that, but it is something you could do with older technology if you wipe it clean and put a browser on it and just Minecraft. And some of my students and I were practicing doing that with some board devices that have been blue X'd, which in our board means they're no longer going to be serviced by anyone in tech, so do with them what you will. If you did have a computer lab or a set of laptops, is the best way for a larger group, club, or class project. So again, I don't know if libraries have some desktops left, JC, it might be the reality in your board or in your school that the only thing you have are Chromebooks, then I'm not going to say it's impossible, but we might have to have a private conversation. So Minecraft here, there's a link to Minecraft system requirements. So the first 2 years I tried to do this on my board. The first year our video card wasn't good enough to actually even run the program. The next year we couldn't update Java far enough. And finally, when all of that had, our computers were all upgraded, the issue then became the firewall to access the server. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. So if you're going to purchase accounts, you can purchase them at a reduced rate through Minecraft Edu. So Minecraft Edu, Joel Levine, I mentioned before, is an educator from New York who created a company, or maybe he's bought it with a company called Teacher Gaming, and they do allow bulk purchases of Minecraft. So Minecraft average price is around $36 plus tax. If kids have their own account, you could have them use their own accounts at school, and I did that before last year, and then bought a few accounts. I just did a bulk purchase from my board position for 25 more accounts, which took the price per down to 14. However, there is a cheaper way of doing it. If you buy Minecraft Edu and use the Minecraft Edu platform, which is the overlay for educators, which also allows you some things that you can't do in the regular game. For example, the teacher can pause students, teleport students to themselves. I liked running that version with my class because it allowed me, if somebody was off task, to bring them to me or pause them. If you pay the $41 for the Minecraft Edu package, you get a framework in which your students can access it with just a random name and picking a character, and you can have up to 100 users. So that is a route to go. The only caveat I would give on that is currently the server that I'm going to mention to you, which I did run in that world, is not up to date yet if you wanted to do a multi-part. In terms of what the price, Isabel, so I believe it's $41 that you have to pay the first time with Minecraft Edu, which gets you the server software, which you don't have to use. You could if you wanted to set up your own server, but it's also the Minecraft Edu program and Minecraft. And you get that, and you have to buy one account with that. So it'd be, you're looking at $70 for the one time. And that you could have up to 100 users, and I can talk to you a little bit more about what that could look like, but I want to show a few more examples. This part is tricky, and I'll talk to you about my journey as we go through. That is probably, as an educator, the best bet. I think it's a little bit easier for teachers to use. And having done both versions, I found it easier to manage a whole class. If you're looking at a library or club where you have 5 to 8 students, you don't need that piece, and you could have students using some of their own accounts. So that's the other part too. If you want to be equitable, then you want to have everyone in your club or class be able to play without having to own Minecraft themselves. Then you're going to want to possibly buy some accounts for your school that can be shared. And that's what I did in a school setting. I'll talk to you more about that. And then this year at a board level, I will share the accounts that the board bought with teachers for them to get comfortable with the environment. And then, so we got here, Laurel. I got the main license and 3 students licenses for $95. Yeah, and I think last year when I got 8 licenses, it was $200. And when I just bought 25 more, it went up to 14, so it was $350. So yeah, I mean, and again, the first time I did the project, I actually got my vice principal to pay for it. I did a project with the Child and Youth Council, working with some students with autism as a social skills group at recess. And so there was some money to buy the accounts for that project, and that was what the project was. But we could use those accounts with other students at other times. So it is something, if you have other teachers in your school that are interested in doing it, possibly they share that piece. And I'll talk to you a bit more about that. It won't run on Chromebooks because Chromebooks are not computers, and it is a program when you play it on a computer that's downloaded. So you can't download anything to a Chromebook. There's a caveat there that explains that it doesn't. You will, if you YouTube how to play Minecraft on a Chromebook, you will get hacks. It is possible to do, but it will wreck your school Chromebook. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you have your own Chromebook and want to figure it out. Perfect. Okay, thanks, John. So yes, and I guess some people have paid or have done their research, so that's great too. Again, as far as things go in the longevity of the use, you don't ever have to pay for upgrades, and you can share your accounts. So again, I found it worth it, but it is a cost can be prohibitive. So what about collaboration? I'm going to move on there. Getting on a server. So in my opinion and for my practice, the richest learning happens in a collaborative environment. And now students, they both have their iPods and they're not playing in a world. They often want to share their learning anyway. That's one of the neat things about Minecraft. Same thing with Lego. Not a lot of people will just do it completely in isolation and not want to talk about it or share it with anybody. Some will go deep into their world and do that, but they want to share. But having a server environment allows you to collaborate in real time. So yes, to answer Anik's question, yes. Now, reading the fine print again, I don't know if that's what the person from Minecraft Edu had initially made it to be that case. So say, for example, as I bought one for my class, then they want me to buy a license for each individual student, but I don't actually have to use those licenses if I'm using the software. And that has changed. Like originally when I read it, when I bought it last year, it said up to 100 students. So you only really need one license to do that. The other piece too, and this is tricky, I did my first year teaching, I bought an account and I gave it to my class because you can download the program for free. To play it, you need to put in a login username, which you've had to pay for. So my students, when I bought the class account my first year, so when we couldn't do it in the classroom, but for Christmas I gave them a class account, they could download it to their home computer and then just log in as that account. And as long as they didn't try and play on the same server at the same time with those accounts, it's kind of like shared iPad apps. If I use the same iTunes account, I can put it on 5 of my devices. So this has an infinite number of devices, so if your child wanted to go to their grandparents' house and put it on their computer, and then they could just log in as them. So yes, Anik, I don't want to talk, it's hard because I don't know, I need to read the fine print again about what the intent of the company was. Because when I spoke to my gaming edu, so I'm going to speak to, they said, yeah, I think he doesn't want people to be doing that anymore. So yeah, I'll let you make that decision on your own. That wasn't the case when I initially bought it. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Microsoft as well. But like I said, I get a strong vibe from Microsoft Canada, the educational people anyway, that have talked to me that if anything, they want to leverage it as an educational tool. So potentially, possibly licenses would come. If you know anything about OSAPAC, the Ontario licensing for programs that are ministry approved to be put on computers, Minecraft I think was on the table but was not approved. I don't know the details because I'm not on that committee, but maybe it will be the next year. The prices may get less. There's OSAPAC there. So it's not saying that because it's not licensed, don't use it. It just means that they're not going to facilitate that and getting it put on imaged computers. Thanks, Frank. Yes. Yeah, Frank, yeah, I think in that case, I don't know if Microsoft that piece, I'm talking more specifically about the Minecraft Edu and the 100 licenses, which is a separate organization again. But I think Microsoft is trying to stay in line with that because a lot of Minecraft users were not happy that Microsoft, let alone anybody, purchased it because it is very much an open place where anyone can make mods. The company was very open to, as long as you don't say you're Mojang, you can make shirts about us and stuff, just don't say you're actually from the company, which is pretty unique. And you're right, that may change since it's now been bought by a big corporation. So back to collaboration. So free, easy, and safe, and beginner friendly. So this link here is a professional play server, is a Google shortener. So just to tell you a bit about these people and this organization. Last year at ECHO, I was keen on Minecraft. I saw Zoe Brannigan-Pipe, who I mentioned before from Hamilton Wentworth, speak. And then I went to see Liam O'Donnell and Denise Colby and Diana Malchowski, I can never pronounce her last name. They're all from the TVSB, and they make up the gaming edus. So the gaming, and now I'm a guest blogger on their site, and which there's links to as well. They host 2 servers through Ryerson University. And Ryerson has generously has this as a hosting site. The people who manage the server, which Liam is one of them, they have access in the server to see all of the chats that have occurred there, meaning that if anything is any cyberbullying or anything that may go on is all watched and can be looked at. If worlds are griefed or so basically been burnt down or wrecked by other people, they can roll back in time if that happens. So it's a safe environment. The professional play server is a really neat thing, and that's where I first went on. So if you as a teacher what I would recommend is that you buy yourself one account for you, or if your kid, if you have children, your kid has an account, a computer account that's not the same as just buying the app, or you have nieces or nephews who do and they're willing to let you try it, you can get whitelisted on the professional play server, and that just means, well, blacklist is you can't play on it, whitelist means you can. All the instructions are there of how to do that.
I have a question.
Hello?
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm good.
Okay. So if you go on the professional play server, they'll whitelist you, and then you as a teacher can go online, and the other people that are on there are educators and their families. Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, people go on, and kids and adults are willing to help you. You can chat with them in questions. They'll show you how to build. That's where I did a lot of my learning, and that again is completely free, and it's a similar platform to the multi-school server. So once you've done that, you can connect with them about whether you want to get your school on the multi-school server. And that's what I did with my students. We did have to, there was a firewall issue, so I had to do trial and error. Does it work without this? No. Liam from TVSB gave me a copy of the letter that they had to write to their tech people at TVSB about what requirements needed to be done and for what reason, and I sent that to my board, and IT approved that and made them be able to talk to just each other, the server, and we were good to go. So before we get into curriculum, because that was what the title was, are there any more questions generally about the setup? I mean, we know cost is going to be an issue. Tech can be an issue. The best way to know for your individual board is to investigate. If there's anyone in your board that is doing it already, and you're connected with them, talk to them, because it's probably going to be the same. I don't know, I guess I can ask a question to you. Does anyone know if anyone in their board that they're from, so if you want to indicate in the chat your board, and you don't have to say the person's name, but if anyone in the board is using the computer version of Minecraft in their school setting for learning, and then I guess on top of that whether they're using a server. Does anyone want to chat or speak on a microphone to that? Okay, quiet people. I guess quiet is good. That's the hard part about this without feedback. If you're still alive, could you raise your hand and then unraise it unless you actually have a question? Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. 1, 2, 3, my board. So again, Laurel, if you're interested and you know that person well enough to know about any firewall stuff. Oh, sorry, John. We were just asking whether people were still alive, because I guess I was just finding it hard without the feedback. I respect that in an online environment you can be an introvert, you can like leave for hours, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't just talking to myself. So. Okay, so and I am getting some feedback in the chat. Pretty sure no one, okay, not in your own school. So, and again, it's kind of, if you're the pioneer and you're not a super confident pioneer about the particular tool, I get that. I mean, I'm sort of, I guess, the pioneer rogue person who's going to try something because kids say it's cool and I agree. But again, with support, obviously. Okay, so firewall issues. iPad school Wi-Fi. Okay, so yeah, the Wi-Fi iPad piece in some ways is easier to do than what I'm talking about. But yeah, if you're the first in your board, if you're a social media person, if you're on Twitter, you would just say, I want to get it started in my classroom. Is there anyone from, and hashtag or at your board. And I guess don't have personal cell phones. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so Kelly, and I guess the thing is sometimes when you're sort of further ahead, people think, okay, but that person's just like a crazy pioneer and I can't do it. To give an example, in my board next week, I'm hosting a PD session now in my role at the board level, and I probably have had 9 or 10 teachers on my board who've asked me about it because they knew it was something that I did. And now I'm doing an after-school PD session, and 3 teachers from my school I was at last year are coming because I'm not there to be the teacher who does it for them. But I mean, if their kids could join a club that I could do, then they didn't have to do it in the classroom. And again, people need to see it to believe it. So hopefully I'll show you some examples. Oh, nice. Using it now. Nice, John. Well, and that's the other piece too. Students are very motivated for this, and there's an interesting article on the Gaming Edu site about, Denise was talking about, if you mention a Minecraft club in your school, and this is true because it's happened to me, you will be bugged for years about it until you make it happen, and they will do anything to make it happen. So, which is pretty cool. If kids are so motivated to do something and you can leverage it as a curriculum tool, then it is a good buy-in. And its popularity is increasing in this environment. Obviously, you guys are all here tonight. Louise mentioned it was mentioned by Will Richardson at the STAO conference as a tool. The ministry actually, Ministry of Ed, had it in one of its slides at its co-presentation of the 21st Century Roundtable. It was a quote from a student saying that they used it. So again, too, nobody's saying that this is the be-all, end-all right now, and someone did say anything, oh, I hear it's losing popularity. I think, I believe, like Lego, it's going to be enduring, but you never know, and that's why the Gaming Edu's group, the group that's hosting the server at Ryerson, said they weren't going to call themselves Minecraft Edu because they believe in game-based education, and Minecraft happens to be the tool in which we use. So that's the other piece too, to think of it. It is a tool like a pencil, a really cool pencil, but again, it's just a tool. And so on that note, let's get to the pedagogy and curriculum, because that's going to be your selling point. Yes, definitely, Louise. And again, maybe that's something you mentioned, the TVO space. And again, there's so many people in so many pockets. But one of the things, and I will say, I don't know if this person is online, somebody in the server wanted to know about how to create someone in the survey asked about how to create a flat world. And I actually didn't know, but then I Googled in how to create a flat world in Minecraft and came up with a bunch of, there you go, John, and found 2 really good resources, which I was going to post there, but I can do that later, or you can probably find them too. I was doing a presentation on a completely unrelated thing in my board, and I wanted to find a Minecraft picture to go with each slide. It was about mining the EQAO reporting tool.
Yeah, I just got my mic on. Yeah, I was just going to interject and say that, yes, absolutely, Syria put that we could start something in Teach Ontario. But I know that you probably do want to show people some of the examples and get them thinking so that they know that it's going to be worth the effort of going through all this work to get it set up and really get it going with their students.
Perfect. Okay, good segue to my tangent, which I do appreciate 100%. So here we go, curriculum. So this is a good challenge question, and I won't put a timer on for it. I'll just hum the Jeopardy theme song to myself. I'd like to challenge teachers at this time. What curriculum areas can you not use Minecraft for, other than the physical activity portion of PhysEd? So throw it in the chat. Okay, I'll speak to them as they come up, not because music was brought up to me at Echo, and it took me a while, and I thought, okay, well, there's really cool music in Minecraft, but that's not quite using it as a tool. Then a person sitting at the table said, well, it's linearly based, so you could have them build the staff for music and show you where the notes are and write on them. Music, I also thought of when you break bricks in Minecraft with different tools, they all make different sounds. So you could do a a patterning orchestra of type. Dance, again, them actually dancing in it because of the physical activity portion, Brenda, you might be right, but you could plan your patterning for your steps. Core French oral. So, good one, Allison. You can get headsets and have chat in Minecraft, but you're right, then they're just chatting near about it. For written French, you can create, there are signs, there are texts that are in Minecraft. So that connection, yes, the oral part would be tricky to do, but you could have them create some sort of world that they then navigate you through and give you a tour in French of the place. Yes, exactly, Deborah. Bethany, okay, good point. I guess in terms of, oh, good one. Michael, yeah, a little bit, yeah, if they get on the connect piece, and that's a 360 though, right? So not usually a classroom tool, but hey, I brought my Wii in for the Olympics. So that's good point. I guess what I was trying to do with this question is flip people's thinking. And often when we see a game-based something, think, okay, well, what can you do with it? But that, I guess, what I was going to challenge back is that if you creatively approach what your learning environment looks like, or what your product after learning could look like, or how you learn looks like, you can do most, okay, thank you, Frank, most anything potentially through Minecraft. Now again, I'm not the expert of it. I have not listed every single thing, but I like when people throw out the challenges, say, okay, well, you could do this. It's not the best tool for everything. So it's not the best tool for dance, for sure. Dancing is actually a better tool for dance. But you could do some things through it. And if you have a really disengaged student who refuses to do anything dance, and the way you'll get them to do it is say, okay, make a tile floor and color the tiles where you would step. What are your components of dance, right? Look at the curriculum. What do I need to know? The physical part of dancing definitely can't happen in this. Unless they're dancing around while they're playing it on an iPad. But again, that could be an accommodation you make for a student if you need to, but it's not really happening within game. But to give you some examples, so when you see it written out, you sometimes can think of a little bit more. Again, due to time, I'm not going to, if you want to throw things in the chat that you can think of, math, it lends itself to pretty naturally in terms of different levels and layers. Now we have some high school educators here. One of the components when I first built it, or first started using it, is saying, well, you can't do circles because it's all blocks. And so that's something you couldn't do. I've seen in the server some really awesome pixelated spheres that have been created. And if you think about how digital photography works, everything is just little square dots, just really, really small. So conceivably, you could do some pieces of that part. The other thing is physics doesn't exist in an entirely traditional way in the original Minecraft. However, there are mods now that you can use quantum physics. How Minecraft is being used at a number of different levels is always mind-blowing to me. If you're not really in the world, and I don't mean in the game, but in the realm of talking to people about Minecraft, you wouldn't know. But I met a master's student at University of Guelph who was telling me about a mod with pneumatics. So now you can, in-game, use Computercraft, which is a mod, to program robots that will make your character move using pneumatics, all based in real engineering and computer code, which I don't even understand. But this is what people are going to do their PhDs on within this game environment. So that's the high end of level it could go to. Life systems, there was an article in the EdFo Voice magazine about two girls in a school in Toronto who built the human body in Minecraft. Maybe they built a model of it, but it was to exemplify the digestive system, and they navigate the person going through it, why they chose what materials for bones or teeth or lava for the digestive system, and then did a tour of where food would go and how it would work in that system. And not only were they motivated and engaged to build it, but other students actually wanted to see their project. Things like structures and mechanisms. There have been challenges of building a bridge over something, but again, you're not going to do a weight-bearing bridge in a traditional setting. So there's some components that you're not going to use because it's not the best tool. But things like you can grow plants in Minecraft. You need to have dirt, you need to till the dirt, you need to plant the seeds, you need to make sure there's enough water and sun. Pretty basic and primary, but there's a step and a process. One could do a comparative of how are these flowers in Minecraft different or the same as flowers in real life, and you can complement that with research. Social studies, history, and geography. There is a project, I don't remember the name of it, but I believe it's university professors who are building the entire Forbidden City from Beijing to scale in Minecraft, and this is a big ongoing project of adults using it in the setting. So again, the potential, if you look forward, is great, and the engagement, as we know, is high. So some of my actual examples. So here we have, this is a project that I did for 2 years, grade 4 medieval times. We watched a video on Learn 360 about building a castle tower. And so the sort of culminating task about it was, okay, so now you're going to build a castle tower. So this was a math project. I gave them a certain volume of plasticine, and they had to decide what size they were going to cut their bricks and how they were going to lay it out, and show me that they knew some key components about castle towers. And I think they had to estimate. I did a bunch of different math components. So I did that for 2 years. It was a fun project. It was hands-on. It was great. It was fun. I did not like this project anymore, but the first project we actually ever did in Minecraft was building castle towers. So I thought, well, we've got it to work. What are we going to do? Okay, you've watched the video. Instead of doing plasticine, let's go into the environment. So, and again, when you're trying something for the first time, there's things that don't go right. So, but as you can see, we have a number of cylinders. I flew out in game, so I was in game with them and flew out to sort of take this aerial shot. So the first thing is I didn't tell them how far the castle tower should be from each other. So you can see some are very close and some didn't like that. And then when we went back, because we didn't finish in the first session, people couldn't remember where their castle towers were because we hadn't built a portal or a place for them to get back. So then we built flags, and I didn't tell them how big the flags should be, so some made giant flags and some made small flags. But some neat learning that occurred, I had a student who was newish to Minecraft, and she said, Ms. Apgar, I don't know how to build a cylinder in Minecraft. I'm like, okay, well, why do you need to build a cylinder? She said, okay, well, because Castle Tower is going to be cylindrical. I'm like, okay, well, check. You know that it has to be a cylinder. Therefore, I don't need to see you build a cylinder in Minecraft because I'm not assessing your ability to make a cylinder in Minecraft. So I said, you can make a, well, what would you do? She said, I'll make a rectangular prism. Okay, another 3D geometry piece she knows. Awesome, go for it. So she started building. But the neat part that happened was as she flew around the environment, she was chatting with other students in the class who had different levels of experience in Minecraft specifically. She then came to me at the end, and I flew over to assess their castles. I put a little sign on their castles, giving them some feedback. And then I said, okay, some finished before other ones, and asked them some questions. You know, why did you make your turrets that size? So again, just getting them to justify their reasoning, understanding what the importance of turrets was. And she said to me, well, I know how to make a cylinder now. Okay, that's great. Do you want me to build it again? I said, no, you can do that next time we do something. I don't need to see you build it. But she was really motivated to do so. So again, not a tangible skill that she needs to take anywhere else, but motivation from learning from others. And this is a student with high anxiety and perfectionism, and who persevered at a task and then wanted to go back and fix it once she knew how. So I thought it was positive. I hear someone's mic, so I'm guessing I need to move on because I'm going too slow. No? All right. So that was just one example. This was, again, when you do something for the first time, it's hard to know what you need to plan for. So I'm sort of get in and try it and see what happens. So my group of students, my social skills group of students with ASD, we wanted to have a particular goal for them to do. Because I said, okay, you're going to come and we're going to have Minecraft club. Well, then they just wanted to all build their own things. And I said, well, that's not really going to build any social skills. So we wanted to do a collaborative build. And we decided a lot of these students had transition visits to their school settings. So we thought, well, what if we built our school in Minecraft? and then we could do a video walkthrough, and that could be a transition video for students who are going to be new coming to our school, spec ed students or students with anxiety who would benefit from that tool. So they loved the idea. It was really complicated. We have a really oddly shaped, weirdly long school, and because we were doing this one lunch hour a week with a high needs bunch of kids, I didn't plan to map it all out for them, the floor plan of it. So the scale and figuring out where people were was tricky, but the great part is that they were so motivated by the task. We had like little roundtable discussions when it wasn't working, saying, okay, how should we do this? And one student who, you wouldn't think in a regular classroom environment had the collaborative skills to do so. I said, okay, well, so-and-so is an intermediate, so maybe it makes sense for them to do the intermediate thing. What do you think? And the navigation and the ability, because again, they were so motivated by this task, was great. So this is an example of the gym. So two students were building this simultaneously without communicating with words and built the pretty much symmetrical gym. And then they started to get into an argument because they had different opinions as to what materials would be used to make the basketball hoops. Because again, basketball hoops don't exist in Minecraft, so they needed some sort of something that looked like that. So they started to get escalated, and we paused them and said, okay, let's talk about compromise or consensus. Where do we need to go from here? And in the end, we got to, was it really important that they exactly matched for this exercise? No, it was more important to them that they did the one that they thought was right, and we moved on from that. But again, so that in this particular thing, this is a club environment. The goal was not to build a gym, but they're doing, a collaborative build without talking that's symmetrical is pretty amazing communication in my mind anyway. Orientation in terms of north, south, east, west, not knowing necessarily where they were, but figuring out where things were in relationship to each other was also pretty phenomenal. But again, with this group, it was about how do we solve problems in a socially appropriate way, which they did really well. Another example, so I learned from the Castle Towers example, we were going to plan beforehand. So we got a graph paper back in the classroom, and I gave them a challenge that they had a certain number of blocks to make their perimeter. And looking at the size of it, I think it was probably consistent. And they were to build a place where they were going to live. And the only parameters was that their total land area couldn't go outside of the space. So we talked about planning. They sort of mapped it out first. One student said, so I said, if you want any lawn, then you can't go over the max surface area. So one student said, well, can we build a rooftop garden? So again, talking about, so natural, authentic learning environment, yes, what are the benefits, the pros and cons? How are you going to irrigate that? No problem, Claudia. Good luck, and again, this will be recorded, so you can always see the end later. So anyway, and then then we talked about volume because they wanted to say, can I go as deep as I want, or can I go as high as I want? So I had no reason to say no, so I said sure. And then with spatial reasoning, I also had them say you had to be X number of blocks, I think it was 20 blocks away from your closest neighbor, but not more than 40, because the goal was to then build a community, and this is going to be a closer community, so we didn't want anyone too rural or isolated for where we were going to go with the exercise next. So again, we should have mapped it out even more spatially about where everyone was going to plot, because we didn't do that. And that second piece became tricky, but we modified. And again, that's part of teaching and learning, that's the piece that didn't work. But what criteria was I initially trying to meet? Yes, we met it. The extension we needed to modify somewhat, but we could figure out that piece. And this is one of my favorites, and it's going to allow me to be quiet for a bit and show you a short video. This is the last one that we were able to do. So, and again, to think about the amount of time spent in the classroom doing this, I did about 2 hours per week. That I know is not feasible for everybody. We have a computer lab with 19 computers, which isn't usually enough for most classes. My class was 21, so closer, a small class because it was self-contained, gifted. Excuse me, but and nobody wants to use a computer lab because they want to use the Chromebook, so we were lucky and could have two periods in which to use that. So anyway, this exercise was, so we read this book, Prince Buglia's Spud. He was the author of Zorgamazoo, if you know that book, and I actually went to high school with the author, so I have a connection, which is neat because we could then share the environment that we built. So what we did was, the book takes place, it has two settings. So as we read the novel together, I did it as a read aloud because it's a book written in rhyme. It talks about Spiff and Spud. So Spiff is very much a fancy area, and Spud is very muddy and fungus-like. And so as we were reading it, we mapped it out visually, spatially about where characters' houses and things would be. And then we attempted to build the setting of the book in Minecraft. So I showed this video for my interview for my current job, which the question was, how do you use leverage technology with your students and accommodate for students with special needs. So one student does have his last name on here. They're not supposed to. We were using the Minecraft Edu interface, and you'll see what that looks like at the beginning. And you can hear background noise. I've put some nicer music over top, but of students talking in the background of the computer lab. But what I'd like you to look at is what they created, knowing the little bit of context of the book, and the chat of how they helped each other. And after you've done so, I'll give you a little bit more information about the students, which again, talking about accommodating for all different types of learners. I'll give you some more insight into that. So, well, thank you, Beth, for the high five, the thumb up. Louise, with your help, this is a YouTube link. It's on my YouTube channel. I think it is open to people who have the link, I hope. So let's give it a go. Turn my mic off. Okay, so some good questions. Good comments. Minnie was thinking, I think, at that point. And the other thing, too, is that, so the students were in the computer lab, all except Jamie, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Just to answer Sab number 2 question, I was on my own device when I communicated with the students, yes. So I had my computer in the lab with them, and sometimes, there's a couple times when I would play a game where they weren't allowed to talk to me in person, they could only type. Again, not to build their typing skills, but just to sort of get them to use that interface. When they were very focused on this task, and there's 20 of them sort of doing their own thing, sort of more organic, and so I just wanted to sort of see where people were and try to engage them. I was in the Minecraft EDU overlay, so if you see the little teacher version there, it looks pretty similar, except at the beginning you could see I teleported to them. Victoria, this was a grade 4 or 5 class. So the interesting piece was Jamie, and it was hard to follow. Later, when I stopped videoing it, I did teleport myself to where she was working. So Jamie is a student in my class. I had her in my class for 2 years. Brilliant student. Asperger's. She has Asperger's and some anxiety. And her computer that she normally uses in the lab wasn't working. So I actually said, why don't you go to the library, the librarian's there. But she sometimes has a hard time communicating with other kids in the class. And so this chat allowed her, especially because she wasn't there in person, she was typing, which is a skill that she has, and was navigating of how to build the mushroom. So someone who's probably usually not socially connected, particularly in the game setting, needed help, and David and Josh, as you saw there, were motivated to help her. Later, I did teleport to where they were, and she'd grown a mushroom before in Minecraft and couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. So the 3 of them problem solved, and that wasn't what I caught on video. But so again, it's sort of organic and it's a big space. And this was probably the 3rd or 4th day on this project, and this was towards the end of the school year, so we wanted to sort of have something finished to show Rob Weston, the author. Yeah, so Minnie, I didn't know if Minnie was participating. The other thing in Minecraft Edu that I didn't completely figure out is sometimes you can be invisible as the teacher. There's some magic in Minecraft, so students will make themselves invisible, and then go and wreck people's stuff. And so again, these are social skill things to figure out. I can see them all in Minecraft Edu, so somebody would say, hey, Edward's bugging me, and I would go teleport to where they were, and this is easier to do again in this version, and then sort of see what they were doing. So again, like I said, a lot of what I did was building the social skills, because that's something that I think is important as a teacher. And part of what I see Minecraft as an environment is similar to Recess and Snow Forts, which again, if you're a high school teacher, it probably doesn't happen anymore in quite the same way. But if you're an elementary school teacher, there are a lot of tears and anger in Snow Fort season when people wreck people's stuff. So we would do collaborative builds outside in real life in snow as well. I actually did one day too of Minecraft in real life where we played in a sandbox for 200 minutes, and these are grade 4, 5 kids who were totally motivated to do so, even though it wasn't in brick form, because it was about building and collaborating and who's doing what with resources. So this environment where I can sort of control the environment more, and we can easily fix stuff, the snow doesn't melt, and you can help navigate it in a way that you can't really do in the same ways at Recess, I found was another rich, outside of the curriculum, but definitely in the soft skills and learning skills aspect of school. So how do you assess? That's always the other question too, the feedback, marks. So again, in a traditional setting, you don't do a test on Minecraft. Do you know how to use redstone? Because again, that's not something that needs to be assessed in education. And really, you could make tangential connections to things like circuits with redstone. I'm not a master of redstone. My daughter read the Minecraft for Dummies book, and now she tells me all about redstone and obsidian, and she knows more than I do, and that's okay. I'm still getting to do webinars because I've used it with my students who are the experts, so that's the other piece to remember too. But how do you assess it? So I would say, what are your learning goals? And then you're also going to figure out if Minecraft is the right tool for what you want to do. So for example, the learning goals in medieval times generally were to have an understanding of people in medieval times, what their lives were like, and why things were and how that impacts us now. So something that broad is probably my building castle towers in Minecraft. It's not going to meet all of those goals, but understanding what components make up a castle tower, yes, they can show me that. And even if they can't show me where a keystone goes because they don't actually have arches in a traditional sense, if they know where a keystone is and it can explain it to me when I say, where would you put your keystone, that I have an understanding that they know that. How do they show or tell their understanding of the goals? So, or sorry, can they? So again, this is why being in game with them or having them showcase their learning on a display setting is the best way to do that. Does their work exemplify their understanding? So is this the product that you see show that they know that? Well, and if not, can they explain why or what they could or should do differently? So again, doesn't mean they have to get perfect the first time. The girl who couldn't make the cylinder in Minecraft, again, that is not part of the math curriculum, how to make a cylinder in Minecraft. But understanding, again, different 3D geometrical shapes, and in this case it was medieval times, so do you understand why they were cylindrical? Yes, because we had a conversation about that. So do you mark it in a traditional setting? And again, remember, you're not marking, can they do Minecraft? But if you've built a robust learning task, then can you assess it through that media? I would say yes, you have to be able to see it, and you need to have some sort of communication with them, because you're not going to be able to see all of their thinking, even though the thinking is visible, unless it's a very concrete task, like can you show me how to make a hundreds grid? Yes, well, you can mark it with Google Forms, definitely. I mean, you can use another tech tool to mark it, but again, it's about what have they done and how are you assessing that. So, I mean, if functionally, if you're asking the question, like, how do they know what their mark is on their castle towers, I gave them feedback. I didn't say this is an A+ tower, because that's not how I do my marking, but they got feedback from me either via a sign or conversation that showed them what they could or should or had to add, or when we moved on to another task, what I was expecting their understanding of what that particular task was. Bethy, before you end, can you please explain the best way to purchase this, the most economical? Yes, I will. Where am I for time? 52. Okay. So I guess just some couple want to know more, and then I'll just go to questions for sort of the last 8 minutes or so. Minecraft Wiki, well, again, you guys can read. The link is here. This is all things Minecraft, not educational. I mean, it's a very educational site. It's not with a focus of education. But any question you could ever want to know about Minecraft will be here and answered. So your flatland worlds, how to do it. It's not simple, and that's the other piece too, is that some things are hard, but they're written out and people want to help you. So I had to move some things when I first did it into file folders, and there is some upfront work, but if you read and you follow the instructions and you're okay with failing because you're not going to blow up all your computers, it'll be okay. Minecraft Utopia. Okay, good, Frank. Yeah, and there's other ones too. This is just a good one to start. If you Google anything Minecraft, then you can find it all. But that's a good one for Minecraft-specific things. And then I've got curriculum connections. So the Minecraft Edu World Library. Now, I did have people access this at Echo, and some of them said, oh, I can't download anything. It actually lets you click through to the age, curriculum area, and then people around the world who are using specifically Minecraft Edu, which is that teacher overlay layer, are doing. So you could copy their projects if you'd like. Some of them have docs, some of them spreadsheets. If you want to be able to download everything, you might have to log in with Minecraft, but you can, by reading it. I didn't log in, because even though I have a login, and I was able to access a lot of things. And again, it's about getting ideas, because I think in the spirit of Minecraft, if you just say, this teacher did this particular project, so I'm just going to do this exact project, your kids will still love it. They'll probably be good learning out of it, but it's not creating it for your kids. It's not personalizing it or individualizing, which is a hard shift for some people to make in education, and it's hard to manage. So start where you are comfortable. If someone's just done an idea and you just do that one project and that's all that you want to do, go for it, because you'll still see the benefits. But again, you might want to ask the kids, this is what I want you to learn, or this is what I've taught you, or this is what we're going to investigate or discover. Is Minecraft a good tool for you to show me what you know about this? And like your really persuasive letter for whoever wrote it earlier in the chat about convincing the principal to get it, who already liked it in the first place, so maybe didn't need as much convincing, they will try and tell you in the best way they can if they're motivated to do so. And there's a couple other links. So again, if you go to Minecraft Edu, just generally, if you scroll down, there's tons of resources. There's tons of teachers outside of the province, outside of Canada, that blog on it. Mojang is Swedish, someone correct me if I'm wrong, and there are university courses in Minecraft now in that place in the world. So again, it's not, oh no, if I don't do Minecraft, I'm doing a disservice to my students, but it is a tool that has a lot of potential to leverage for education, and it's not impossible, but we will answer the questions in terms of feasibility for cost. And again, finally, want to know more, Google it, try anything, worst case you fail. And fail is in all caps there, because I learned from my gaming edus, failure is your first attempt in learning, and if you want your students to take those risks, as we do in the 21st century, then you need to be willing to publicly do so as well. So that would be my challenge too, and I guess I can open up to questions. Timing worked out okay, so I will, if you want to turn your mic on, great. I will.
I think Sab,
go to
yes, Jen, I think Sab has a question a little bit higher up in the chat about whether the video that you had showed of the students working, were they working as a group or were they working individually but in the same space?
Okay, so I do think, again, and you can probably see, and it was sort of organic. My students are very strong-willed in terms of that, so sometimes I let that go. So in this case, they were able to self-select whether they wanted to work in SPIF or SPUD. And again, being further in the process, some of them said, okay, I'm going to build the tower. But we didn't do a ton of pre-planning at the beginning of, okay, we're going to build the tower and the tower is going to look like this. Because again, sometimes to do that, There's arguments that happen even in the pre-planning piece that if you just try and game might work itself out better when you're actually manipulating it. Unlike actual real Lego, where I've had students, fighting over who's found the wheels first because they don't think there's enough wheels. When you know there's unlimited resources, the fighting for the resources piece doesn't happen in the same way. So it was a collaborative. It was about 50-50. So there's about 10 working on one thing. They weren't all close to each other right then because they were at a different process, and I didn't get to fly around to everybody in that short video. So before you end, so I'm going to go to Beth Lee's question then. The best way to purchase this and the most economical. In my opinion, well, it all depends what you have actually, Beth Lee. I think the computer version, buying it through Minecraft EDU, like really if you just buy Minecraft EDU and one account for yourself, go to the professional play server so you feel comfortable sort of playing, you have that account. Technically, you could put that on your computers at your school, and they could log in up to 100 users at any one point. And that would be, someone said it earlier, I think it's 41, it's around 75 or something like that. And then you would have an account for life that you could use for yourself, or if you have any kids in your family or other adults in your family that are interested in using it, they could use it as well. So that's probably your most economical. If you have, say, a handful of iPads that are on a shared iTunes account and you wanted to do small groups. So if you had 5 iPads that were on a shared iTunes card, you could buy it once for $6.99 and set up a little multi-world. That again is obviously then only $7, but you wouldn't be able to do full class setup like that. And in my experience, and I don't know if it's because they understood it was a server and there's a big brother-y component, or it was because they were on static computers that they couldn't carry around, I did have students set up their own little worlds and had more issues with sort of bullying and stuff. So whether it was they thought that I wasn't watching in the same way because I didn't know their devices, or I mean, thinking that's probably more to it than the nature of it was on an iPad or it was on a computer. There are, again, the Pocket Edition, which is what the mobile version is called, is much more robust than when it first came out. But again, it doesn't have all of the components. And as an adult, I actually find the PC version easier to navigate. Nobody brought this up, but when at Echo, I had a number of people saying, when I play it, I want to learn to play it with my students or my kids, but it makes me nauseous. That might be a reality for some. I was, like I said earlier in the presentation, I wasn't a first-person gamer. I used to play games with my brothers, and it was first-person shooter, and I would always die first because I was so bad at it. But again, if you're in the environment for a while, you get familiar with it. So, but I do prefer the PC version to the mobile version. But again, it's totally dependent on what technology you have. I know somebody left the chat earlier because all they have in their school is Chromebooks. So it's not going to work for everybody in a traditional way, but if you can be creative, great.
Hi, Jen. Can I ask just one thing? It's Beth Lee. Hi.
Sure.
I just wanted to know,
Hi.
like, I have a lab, and I have, well, I don't know how to explain this. We have our Healthy Schools plan, and on our Healthy Schools plan, there's a social-emotional component, and I wanted to start a group with a bunch of kids, especially the kids who need a little bit more attention, as per se, to engage them in school itself. If I was going to set up a small group in a computer lab, would the best thing then just to get the 100 server thing, or would I have to do like 6 individual?
Again, you can probably do the 100 people, and then you can manipulate it a bit more. And depending on who your students are, though, because somebody did say, if the students already have the accounts, then they can use their accounts. And that's what, so my social skills group that I did, which is a small group, I think 4 of them did. So then I could use that version without the EDU. And then it was still, and again, my only caveat sort of is that in reading the fine print of Minecraft EDU, I don't know if you're supposed to do that anymore. So I just feel a little bit bad about that piece, but I think it does say you're supposed to buy an individual license for each user, but you don't, I mean, last I've used it, which was very recently, you don't have to. So, but again, I think too, in the spirit of Minecraft EDU, is that if you're going to try it and see what works, it makes sense that you or your principal or whoever's in charge doesn't want to invest a significant amount of money for something that may or may not work. And that's why at my board position this year, I've bought a large number of accounts, well, the 25 plus the 8 that I have, so I can lend them to teachers to use for a period of time to see if it's something that they can feasibly do at their school. And then if people aren't using them at the same time, they sort of are owned by the board and it's all for education. So again, you've got to sort of figure out your judgment on that. Do go and read the site because maybe you interpreted it in a different way. I wasn't, like I said, when I first did it, that's the way I thought it was intended. Go ahead, Louise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
No
Beth.
problem, Beth.
I just want to be mindful of our time. It's actually 9:03 now, and so we do try and respect our end time at 9 o'clock, folks. So I'm sure that some of you do have more questions, and Jen has been fantastic and shared her contact information. I'm going to drop all that in the chat again here, and we definitely encourage you to click on that orange link in the center of the screen or the feedback link I put in the chat. It's the same link. And definitely fill out our feedback survey. And I'm also going to put the calendar link in the chat there. But right now, I'm going to hand things back over to Celia.
Thank you, Louise. And Jen, thank you so much. Very informative session, giving us just so many necessary steps to get started with Minecraft. I can see that there's a lot of questions here, and you know, you shared examples on how to use it to engage students, and there's just so many creative possibilities with this game. And the fact that there are so many questions, we can certainly look at doing more sessions in the new year. I'd like to thank each of you for giving of your time, your own time to participate with us tonight and staying way past our time. And hopefully you were able to get ideas to get started using it in the classroom. I know that there were a lot more questions, so take a few minutes and give us your feedback. And if you feel that there is a need for more sessions on Minecraft, maybe even just a question and answer session where you come with your questions and we have experts like Jen that can answer specific questions. We could certainly take that approach. So be very specific in your feedback and take the time to do that. We're in the process of planning the program from January to June. So give us ideas on what you feel is important to help and support you in your classroom, because that's the intent of OTF Connect, supporting you in your classroom practice. We still have sessions that go on till the first week in December, so use the link at the bottom to check what's still available on the program and sign up for the sessions, and share the link with your colleagues and encourage them to participate. So thank you, Jen, so much, and thank each of you for giving of your time to be with us tonight. And Louise, of course, thank you for always keeping us all together and on task. So good night, everyone.